All right, welcome to the Teaching a Rockstar podcast. And on today's episode, oh my gosh. All right, now listen, teachers, I'm telling you, give me 10 minutes. Like when I introduce this guy, you're going to think, okay, I'm not listening. But I'm telling you, this is the one you want to hear because, this is a guy that a lot of kids that you have in your classroom could have been living that same life, doing the same thing. And he's crazy successful right now, living his passion, which is what it's all about. So give this one 10 minutes, and I promise you're going to listen to the rest of it. All right, on today's show, get this. We have Juan Adams, a UFC fighter, and he has a big fight coming up. That's why he's on this thing. Saturday, July 20th in San Antonio. He's up against Greg Hardy. All right, now get this. So Juan has a professional fight record of 4-1. Greg Hardy has a professional fight record of 10-1 if you count the women he's beat up. and so it is going down in San Antonio. And so we're going to get him on the show. Here we go. Teaching a Rockstar podcast with Juan Adams. Let's do this. All right, brother, here's what I love about this fight. Here, and this is like, I'm going to describe to you, because, like, you're in it, so you might not know, like, from us looking from the outside, like, in this kind of UFC mixed martial arts community of fans, which is very different, because, like, we're all living vicariously through you, right? and like, here's my theory on fans. Like, there's, like, your amateur fans that go to Wild Wings and just want to see the blood. But, like, the real fans, you know who it is. It's, like, dudes like me. Like, the more married you are and kids and you have a job, like, the more responsibility you have in life, the more you love this, because it's like such an outlet for what you don't have. You know what I mean?
Right.
All right. So here's what I love about this fight. It feels like junior high. All right, now get this. So, like, in our junior high, thousands of people across the nation, we're on the same junior high, and there's this one kid, Greg, in school who, like, beats people up, and he's rude to teachers. And he's, like, popping bra straps on girls in the hallway, just messing with everybody. And, like, everybody's terrified of the dude, right? And he's bigger than everybody else, and he's meaner and more violent, and like, he doesn't get in trouble because he's probably, like, a star football player, so, like, coaches protect him and stuff, and he can fail a grade, he can fail classes, but the coaches will get the teachers to change their grade because they can't lose them for Friday football, and all that's going on, and people are terrified. And, like, we're sitting at lunch, and he'll come and steal on Friday. He'll steal your pizza slice off your plate. You can't do anything because the kid's huge. He'll beat you up, and then all of a sudden, Juan Adams moves into the school, and he's the one dude we all think maybe. That's the kid that can put an end to the bully. And, dude, that's what it feels like. The people are so excited about this fight, man. Like, do you feel it?
Yeah, man, I definitely do feel it. I've asked for this fight since back when we were both still amateurs, right before I even made my pro debut with LFA. I was trying to get this fight. I'm excited about it. I've wanted this fight for a while. It's probably my easiest opponent to date. So
really, you think so?
Yeah, from a technical, I mean, he's bigger than anyone I've fought before, but technique wise, he's not there. Gas tank wise, he's not there, and experience wise, he's the least experienced opponent I've had since my pro debut.
He's got, like, the athlete factor. I mean, he's a great athlete.
Yeah,
clearly.
He's athletic.
Other than that, though, that's what we all thought. But, man, the fact that I don't know, like, for me, first of all, it's kind of disrespectful to the sport because I respect the sport, right? And to have him in there, it's kind of disrespectful. But I get it. I get the ratings. And even if, like, when you beat him up, they'll bring him back because, like, we want to see him get beat up again. So they're going to bring him back and pay him again so we can watch somebody else beat him up because like no one likes the guy.
Right.
That's part of the deal. I get it. All right, so July 20th, that thing's happening. Let's go back a little bit, man, because this is one of those things where everybody, I like to go back to, like, the question you have in your mind because, like, every dude has it in there. Like, when they see something like this on TV, some sort of a spectacle like this, they think, God, I could do that. And, like, they'll throw some punches in the air and punch a pillow and kick the couch. Yeah, I could do that. But then you think, man, that dude might get a big punch in the face, and that changes your mind.
Right.
But, like, for you, man, like, at what point did you think, you know what, this is something I really could do?
Back when I was in high school, I always liked to fight growing up. People kind of picked on me a lot growing up in school. I was always a real nonchalant, like, unassuming. I was just like, whatever, do whatever you want. So today, back then, what I would do is, you would push me to a point, then I'd be like, hey, chill, and that would be your only warning. Then, like, all right, we're gonna fight then, and it would kind of, so, and I didn't really get in a whole lot of fights till I got to high school, and I started wrestling in high school, and then we would watch UFC events every now and then, and I would watch it and be like, those guys are about my size. I might do that one day. But I never went to a boxing class, kickboxing. I was just wrestling.
Yeah.
Then I wrestled in college, and we had to take combatives classes. I went to a military college, so we're there, and I was a huge fan of UFC at the time. So I would do combatives classes. I did boxing and jiu-jitsu, just a 1 semester class once a week. You go up there and do your class, and that was it. And it was I was in ROTC because you're required to do that at the college I went to, and everyone thought they could fight, but not many people really could fight.
Yeah.
And so I would come home over breaks, and I would work with people. That's how I would make money, is doing wrestling classes. I would teach wrestling classes over the summer, and get my workout in also after the classes. And finally, when I was a bouncer between semesters at college, and then once I graduated, I became a head of security at a nightclub, and then general manager at one. But I was still staff security, so I was always a bouncer. I just had more responsibility than the other ones. And every time someone would go off, like I would just, knock guys out, or, slap them, pick them up, carry them out. Like, I didn't get in a whole lot of fights. I was just, but I was like, I could probably do this. And so I started sparring and going to classes, and I was coaching fighters, helping them with their wrestling. But finally I was like, I could probably do this. And I took an amateur fight, and the rest was history.
And so, man, you take that first amateur fight, and like you're in the cage door closes, and like, are you? Here's what I'm wondering, man. Is it like pure excitement, or on some level, are you like terrified?
It's a little terrifying, being locked in there. You're like, oh man,
this is for real now.
His one objective is to beat me up. My one objective is to beat him up. So the first couple of times, like, I just want to get out of here with as little damage as possible.
Right.
So I went in, hit the guy, got my takedowns, and just ended it quick.
Get it done, get it out, and get it over, and go home.
That's how my fights were for the longest. And then my UFC debut was I didn't get that guy out of there until the beginning of the third round. And then my last fight went all 3 rounds. But afterwards, you're just like, oh, I'm not injured. I'm not in pain or anything. So, this isn't that bad.
So, like, at your last fight, was it like, does the fear, like that feeling of terror, go away, or does it increase because your opponents are getting increasingly better in terms of their ability?
It's not really a fear thing. You get nervous. It's more for me. My fear isn't harm or damage of the opponent. It's am I gonna perform to my best, right? So if I'm not performing to my best, that bothers me on an innate level. And on my last one, I was flat-footed. My head wasn't really in the fight, and that was my biggest fears. Not showing up, because up until then I could. Well, even in my UFC debut, I didn't really show up, but that's your UFC debut. Everyone has jitters that first time.
Sure.
So, but before that, I would always show up fight night. I was ready to go, and then that was the first time I wasn't. I just didn't want to be there.
It's a weird thing, man. Who talks about it is, and like explains it really well, is Cerrone. Like, he talks about like the build up to it, and like there's peak week, and you get and the emotion is building, and the whole camp is designed around getting you at the peak emotional state. And he says like he's had 3 or 4 fights where he just cannot flip the switch. Like he's like, do we have to do this? He's like, I'll do it, but I don't really want to do it. And it's such a weird thing. And other times, it's like the switch has been flipped and he's ready to go. It's just like a mental thing. And I think maybe that's where, your work with the hypnosis guy, the hypnosis expert, might play a role too.
Yeah. I'm really excited for that. We started. I had my 4th session with him today, and each time we go through it, we go through the hypnosis. I feel a little bit better. We focus on one thing, one feeling, or one deep-seated fear, or point of contention in my psyche. And
Sure.
we work on it, and we work through that. And each time, it's all about replacing negative thoughts with positive or detrimental thoughts with proactive ones. And it helps so much. I mean, I feel it just in my day-to-day life, even when I'm training, when I'm working out. Normally it's, oh God, I got another workout today. I don't really want to do this. And
Yeah.
now I'm just visualizing, okay, but this is enabling me to do this better or to do my craft better. So
Sure.
I'm very excited about it.
Man, I was thinking about like you're talking about like that first fight. There's like some like component of fear or terror there. You know who describes that really well? Ever heard Brendan Schaub talk about it? Dude, it's hilarious.
I have not.
Oh man, it's so good because he says like that was the difference between me and every other fighter was that when he describes it, he talks about being backstage, like this is like a pay per view, the whole bit. And the only thing in his mind he's actively thinking about, is there a way out of this? Like he's thinking, is there any way the power can go out, or they lose the feed to the satellite, or he's running because and then even on like the walk to the cage is coming. He says like he's going through the crowd, and like every other fighter's hell yeah, and a high fiving people, and he says he's walking through and he'll see some dude with a beautiful girl, and the guy has a beer, and he's like, man, I want to be that guy. Like, I want to be watching and having a beer with a girl and not doing it. Yeah. It's fun. Like, it's so, like, the dude was so self-aware, and that's when he knew, like, I'm never going to be the champion with this kind of a mindset.
Right.
And at some point, it was going to lead to, like, a horrific injury.
Right. And he's right about that because, another guy that talks about it, Sugar Ray, I think Leonard, the one that fought, one that was in that movie, Hands of Stone, the one that Usher portrayed, but he got on with Stephen A. Smith, and they were talking about the Anthony Joshua Andy Ruiz fight, and he says, every fighter or every competitor has that moment where you're backstage, it's right before the fight, and you're getting ready, you're doing your last mental prep, and you look in the mirror, and it's either that guy that's showing up to kill, or it's that guy that you're everyday you, and on those nights where it's your everyday you kind of, there's nothing you can do about it. Yep. You're just sitting there like, oh crap, I got to go through with this now, and it's not fun. That guy's shown up a few times for me. Luckily, when I fought locally, I was on such a higher level than everyone. It didn't matter, But UFC, every one of these fights, the right guy's got to show up, or you're not gonna. It's not gonna be a fun night for you.
Yeah, and man, when did you get the call like that that UFC call? What was that like? Like, how does it happen? Like they call your manager? They call you?
Yeah, they usually go through your manager or through your gym. For me, my path was very different than most people's. I only did 4 amateur fights. I signed with my manager before my 4th amateur fight, and we sat down, we talked about it, we got a path together, and. We signed, we got an exclusive contract with LFA, meaning I couldn't compete with any other organization, and I signed a 4-fight contract with them. And there was a contingency plan in there to where if I got called up to the Contender Series or the UFC, they would let me out of that contract.
Yeah.
So I like to fight very often. So in my first 16 months competing, I think I had 7 fights, 4 amateur, 3 pro. And all of them were over in less than 5 minutes. So we got the Contender Series offer, and we went to Dana White's Contender Series, and I fought on that one, and that was a big call for me. I didn't think it was going to happen because, you see guys on there, most of them got like 10, at least 7 or 8 fights, and I'm on there 3-0, Right. But I win that fight, and I'm sitting back there thinking there's no way they're gonna sign me after this. They want guys a little more experienced. I don't think I'm gonna get a contract. I'm like, all right. So I'm already thinking like, okay, well, my next move, I'll be able to ask for more money on the regional scene, go get 3 more regional wins. I'll come back here next year, and then I'll get to the UFC. And the lady comes back and just says, Juan Adams, you're in the UFC. And I was just shocked. Like, I didn't know how to react, how to respond, because when you work so hard for something and it comes true, it's weird because there's very few times in my life where you work that hard for something athletically and it happens for you. And it's weird to say that, but, you're taught growing up that if you keep doing something, you keep going for it, and you stay on the straight and narrow, you do what you're supposed to do, you do everything you're supposed to do, things are going to work out.
Right.
Sports, it's not like that.
Nah.
Man. You can work harder than everyone in the room, and then you won't win the championship, or you won't get that goal. And for me with wrestling, my goals had to change so many times athletically throughout life. In high school, I wanted to play Division I football. I wanted to be this great high school football athlete. Broke my hand my senior year. Year before my junior year, I was ineligible at one point, and so I didn't really get to live that dream out. But I found wrestling, and I was pretty good at it. And then with wrestling, I was 5th in state, then an All-American at the Disney Duel. So when I went Division I to wrestle, I wanted to be an All-American for that, and I worked so hard. I did everything else. I did all the extra work I was supposed to do. I went, privates with my coaches, extra workouts with my strength and conditioning coach, running on the side, watching what I ate outside of season. Everything I was supposed to do for that, I did. And I really wanted to be an All-American. I dropped a class my senior year to come back and wrestle a 5th year to get another go at it, and I still didn't make it,
Yeah.
So, when you've been programmed that many times to, fall down, get back up, I was expecting another setback at this point.
Yeah.
But once I got into the UFC, I was just ecstatic. It was the first time for me in a really long time that it just worked out.
For sure.
So I was so happy. And then I was just like, oh, crap, I got to work so much harder now. And, after that, fighting wasn't really fun for me anymore. I wasn't enjoying it because all I could think about was staying there. I had to work so hard. So it was just a job. And then, your coaches or your coaches or your friends are always on you like, oh, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, blah, blah, blah. And it sucks the joy out of it for you.
Yeah.
And they're so like hyper focused on everything. They're telling me to do this, and I got to sit back and watch them eating whatever they want, drinking whatever they want,
Right.
telling me to go do this, that, and the other, but their body isn't the one going through it. So
Yeah.
it's tough, man. It can build a lot of negativity, but this is the first camp in a really long time where I've just enjoyed training and really attacked it with a passion because I really don't like this, man.
And plus, here's the other thing, dude. You know what I think? Like, there's a side of you that, I could, any dude that's wearing a freaking romper on the internet, like, there's like this performance part of you. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we want to fight, and yeah, we want to win, and yeah, we're an athlete, but at the same time, this is entertainment, and like, that's the part of you I think that is, that kind of lights up that part of your brain that, man, like I get to perform. Like, I am on stage as the performer, and like I think that alone brings back the joy too.
Right.
But you're right. Like, I was when I was in college, I was a music major and went on to be a band director and teacher and all that stuff. But I can tell you this, all of us, I can look back and out of like the 50 people I knew that was in my class as a music major, just a few have anything at all to do with music or even play, because just the study of it and the grind of college and that just sucks the joy out of it. It's not even fun anymore.
Right.
But all the people I knew that I played with on the side that wasn't going to school for music, they still play because they still love it. They're just hanging out, having a good time with music. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
And dude, the other thing I was thinking is, what's so different about being a professional athlete is it's just like there's this DNA factor to it where like, like I always say, man, like for me, the greatest example I ever saw was like watching baseball players, where you can watch an amazing high school baseball player and they say, wow, that guy's amazing. He's clearly better than everybody else. And then you go to like a Division I school and watch baseball players. And you go, oh my gosh, those guys are amazing. But then if you go to a major league camp in Florida and watch what a major league, but just the way they throw the ball is so completely different and on such another level of athleticism. Like, and there's no way you can teach that, man. That's just in there. And here's what I love about UFC. There's so many variables where like maybe your striking isn't your strong point, but you're so good on the ground. Your jiu-jitsu is so good. Your wrestling is so good that's okay that striking isn't your strong point. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And that way you can really play the variables enough to almost beat anyone. It's amazing. That's such a cool thing. Dude, going back, like when you were in, think back now. Also, I was wondering, did you grow up here in Houston?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Houston, Texas.
All right,
and
think back to elementary school. Where were you?
Roberts Elementary.
Right, that's where my wife went to Roberts.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. And think back to Roberts Elementary. Can you, I used to know an assistant principal, but I can't think of his name right now. Think back to Roberts and think back to elementary school. And when you were in elementary school, were you kind of reserved kid, just kind of doing a thing, or were you like rowdy out of control?
I was a really reserved kid.
Yeah.
My brother had ADHD. I was like super lethargic. Like, and kids would always like mess with me, and I was yeah, whatever. But I was, and I've been playing sports since I was 3 years old. As soon as I could walk, I was playing sports. So, and I was a little chunky kid too. So my thing was, yeah, people might make fun of you, but if you're better than them at everything, it doesn't matter. So. I always had the best grades in elementary school. Like it was, because I could learn things really quickly. I would hear it one or two times, I'd be done. So it got to points where like my teachers would literally just send me on errands all day. Like they would give me notes to give to other teachers, and I would just like walk around the school most of the day doing that. Or they had these packets they would give, like busy work packets that they would give me, and I would just work on those. And oh god, so that's all I would do, and it would be chill. And I was a real chill kid, and then like I remember there was one class I got a B in, and they're like, oh well, he doesn't pay attention in class, because I would get bored. I would just sit around, I would read my books the whole day. Like I just didn't do the classwork because it was that easy, and. So then once they put me on ADD meds, or the Adderall and Ritalin and all that, they were messing with that. That's when I would have like bursts of energy, because I would be on that stuff, and then the one day I didn't take it, I would be like all over the place.
Yeah.
So I just stopped taking it once I got to high school. I just stopped taking it. I reverted back to being pretty chill.
Yeah, man, that's interesting that they put you on that stuff, because like if you're already pretty chill, it really does have like the opposite effect, And so, and then when you were in elementary school, and thinking back, was there a teacher that comes to mind that you remember most, and like had a great experience? You could tell they really cared, were passionate about teaching, and you loved being in their class.
Yeah, my fifth grade teacher was awesome, Miss Hatley.
Miss Hatley, is she still there?
No, she last time I checked, she was at T.H. Rogers, doing she was a librarian at T.H. Rogers last time. That's where I went to middle school.
Yeah.
So but no, we were Facebook friends for a while. I don't know if we still are, because I post a lot of really wild stuff on Facebook.
Right, I noticed.
Facebook. I just don't care. I don't take myself super seriously, so I go on Facebook to stir the pot a little bit, then have stuff to read while I'm on the toilet.
Yeah, you got it like that dude. What's his I can't think of his name.
No, Derek Lewis.
Yeah, Derek Lewis. He went to I was teaching at Cy Springs. He came to Cy Springs when I was teaching there. That dude beat up everybody. Like,
oh yeah.
It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when he's going to beat you up.
Yeah.
Him and his buddy, I can't think of his buddy's name, but that was like, they had so much fun at school. They didn't go to school too much, but, and the rumor is he actually went back and apologized to the principal, Sarah Hardy, and said, hey, look, man, I'm sorry, but I'm making a living out of it.
Yeah.
And, all right. So with Miss Hatley, did you ever take a moment and say, hey man, thanks. It was awesome. I really appreciate you making a difference.
I probably did. I wrote all my teachers' notes at the end of the year.
Really?
Usually, yeah. And I would always go like thank them. I did that all the way up through college, though. I was just always thankful for their time, because I understand like teaching's one of those things you kind of have to have a passion for, otherwise you're not gonna make it. Because I coach, and I'm telling you, like some of the kids I've coached, I'm just like, if we weren't here right now.
Right.
So
yeah,
but now I only work with there's a couple kids I'll do privates with that aren't in high school, but I only work with with high schoolers. No.
Yeah, kids are serious, passionate. Yeah, I get it, man. You're right, dude. Like teaching is so hard that if you don't absolutely, here's what I say, man. If you love it, it's the best. Almost, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's the best job on the planet. But if you're not passionate, absolutely, like if you don't love it, it's the hardest thing you could ever possibly do.
Yeah.
It's so hard. And then so when you were growing up, man, what were your parents? Were they do they have a history of educational success, and like were they into school and all that?
My mom was. My mom, I don't think she ever got a B. She got a B in a PE class in high school, maybe. I don't know, but she graduated from Rice. I think with 2 degrees or a degree and a master's or something like that. My dad went to Rice to play. My dad was really athletic. He went to the MLB right out of high school. Then he played AAA for 3 years. Then went back to college, and he's his last year, a couple years of eligibility to play football. So he played football at Rice, and that's where they met. But my mom was very academically inclined. Me, not so much. I got through with minimal effort all the time.
Yeah.
Carried me through college. Actually, in college, I switched to computer science because I already knew enough of it to where those first couple of years I didn't really have to do much.
Yeah.
And I made Dean's List twice. And then after that, I could put in just enough effort to pass my class without having to do a whole lot of extra work. So,
Sure.
I actually figured out how to look at other people's homeworks on the computer. So
There you go.
one of my buddies figured out how to look at files. So I would just go view files. If I couldn't figure something out, then on the help received, I would write it on there like, hey, help received. Couldn't figure XYZ out, so I looked at someone else's homework.
Done. Yeah. Hey, and so professionally, what do your parents do?
Well, my mom passed right after I graduated, but she was a research. She was in oncology, so
Got it.
she started with breast cancer research. Then she went on to prostate cancer research. I think she finished in thoracic care, being a research coordinator in the clinic.
Yeah.
And then my dad's a cook for Aramark. So
Nice. And then so for your dad right now, is he is he down and supportive of this whole thing?
Yeah, he's that's one way to put it. He's there, supportive. I mean, whenever he's on shore, he always asks when, and he watches every fight. I think he's only been to one. My aunt and grandma have been to every one of them, except for the one in Vegas because I only got 4 tickets for that one. And my brother's been to every fight pretty much.
Yeah. What's he do?
He is a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so man, so we have like a history, like a kind of a legacy of success in your family. Everybody's generally successful at what they do, and you just chose a very different path.
Yeah, I just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
Man.
So, man, I mean, can you ever see yourself in a cubicle, picking up the phone, dialing cold calls, trying to get some money, wearing a tie at Merrill Lynch?
I couldn't do that. I was a loan coordinator at a bank. That was my last, it wasn't full time. I worked 30 hours a week doing that. I was managing a nightclub at the same time, and I had 6 part-time jobs at one point just because I didn't want to be stuck all day doing the same thing. So
Yeah.
I was driving Uber, working at the club, coaching at 2 different schools, and coaching at the gym, doing privates, and working at the nightclub as well. So
Yeah.
I was all over the place.
But dude, I gotta wonder, man. Like in terms of when you see UFC payout money, I'm always looking at that, and what I don't think people realize is all of the gym memberships, all of the coaching, all of the nutrition, all of the whether it's some sort of a like a psychological therapist, coach, something that people have on the side. Like there's such a huge team that you're paying for. Like I mean, it's at this point, even though you're on TV and it's ESPN and the whole thing and UFC, like it's still a struggle.
Yeah, definitely. And on top of that, I mean, you're doing you've got that aspect of the struggle going on, and on top of that, most of you're in debt because a lot of places will waive that. Your manager pays you on the front end to help get you there.
Yep.
You spend the rest of your career trying to pay them off. Even me, I get free membership in most gyms that that I go to, my coaches, like, they don't ask anything from me. I still try and pay them, but even with that, it's hard sometimes. You don't understand. They have to stretch that money out for
Yeah.
weeks, for months. Usually, I fight frequently, and I'm still like begging to fight any chance I get, just so I can, make money.
Yeah.
And but I'm sponsored, so like I'm smarter than most fighters when it comes to that. At this point in my career, I make $42,000 a year from sponsors, so. That's where most of my money comes from, and then UFC stuff is just on top of that. So,
Yeah. Like what kind of sponsors?
Rhino Pro Truck Bed Liners is my really big sponsor. And it's all social media and interview stuff. So I drop them on interviews and social media all the time. And then FlemingAttorneys.com is another one. Hemp Lab, the Hemp Lab down in the Heights, they just opened up. That's another sponsor.
What do they do?
They sell CBD products.
Dude, I'm so into that. Like, I got to figure this thing. Dude, I can't sleep. I'll tell you that right now. Like, I don't sleep. And like, here's what I'll stay up for 3 or 4 days, and then I'll zonk out.
Yeah.
But I'm not productive for 3 days because I haven't slept, man. Right. I need to look into the CBD thing to see if I can get
it's right down in the Heights by Boomtown Coffee.
Yeah.
You go to the left of that, and then on that little back wall over there. So
have you noticed great results from it, like in terms of recovery or sleep or like
I personally don't, because I get tested so much. I try not to do anything. I just try not to put anything synthetic in my body. But everyone I know that uses it, they rave about it and they love it. So, I'm one of those guys, if it works for you, do it. I would give it a try. There's definitely no negative.
Right.
I haven't heard anything negative about it. So
yeah, it either works or doesn't. That's what I hear. There's nothing bad's going to happen.
Right. So I definitely encourage everyone to try it.
Hey, man, for those sponsors, did they seek you out or did you seek them out or does your manager hook that up?
So most guys go through their manager. I went through it myself.
That's the way to do it,
just because I don't, I wanted to make that money. So the way I went about it is I put together a packet, and I look at social media and everything, and I have a very different social media persona. Another one, but I view it still as a business. I've monetized a certain style on my social media, so I have to maintain that style. And I look at it and I look down at my demographics. Right now, my following base is 86% male.
Yep.
And of that 86%, I believe 78% of that is males age 18 to 35. So the majority of my target audience is males age 18 to 35.
Those are truck bed liner buyers right there.
Yeah. So that's the type. That's the type. So I gear the type of sponsors that I look to towards that. So in that packet, I break down my following, I break down my base, how many numbers I have, the number of engagement the amount of engagement I can get per post, boosting that post for $5 over the span of a week versus $35 over a span of a week. How many more people I can reach, and you can tailor make the people that it reaches out to, and that's also how you grow your following. You make a post geared towards a different demographic of people. Even though it might reach 10,000 people and you get 100 followers out of it, that's the game. It's all numbers right now. You just have to boost, because the more followers you have, the more money you can get.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how you got to do it.
Yeah, man. So for me, the way I did my Facebook, because I had a viral video, and that's when everything happened. Like I had a video with 26 million views. And just that one video alone, like the next day I woke up like 50,000 Facebook followers.
Yeah.
And so my whole thing is on Facebook. I don't have anybody on Instagram because I don't have pretty pictures. And like in the teacher world, oh my God, dude, like they take it. I mean, it's all about the aesthetics and the thing, so that following that whole Instagram world is weird for me because on my Facebook is all based on conversation.
Right.
And information and discussing kids and making a difference in their lives and delivering content and all that. So like Instagram, it just isn't the best place for that.
It's hard to do that on Instagram because your videos have to be like a minute, maybe a minute and a half.
Dude, I go long.
Right. So Instagram's not the market for that. Instagram is really geared towards a millennial mindset, short attention span. You have to be consistent, but you still have to be different.
Yeah.
So it's hard to do that on Instagram. My Instagram is my feed versus my stories are two very different personalities in there. So my stories are all just me just doing dumb stuff. I have 1,000 people a day will tune in just to see if like I do this thing called Kaga Con Kraken. I sit on the toilet and just talk about stupid stuff, like,
Right.
and then I rate the poop afterwards.
Right,
And
yeah.
people like chime in and like they get really into it. You know, I talk about the different types of poops and what you eat versus how and stuff like that. That's just one of the aspects, and then I talk about coffee, or I go on little tirades about dudes staring at you at the gym,
Right.
little stuff like that, very bro-y, on my stories. And then on my post, it's always like some very basic photo and then like a really sarcastic or satiric caption with it.
Sure.
People love it, and then that's my. And now my Twitter is just wild. Like I just go on Twitter to say off the wall wild stuff, and people like that there. But
Yeah.
Twitter's also kind of where I interact with people more, because I'll go at you on Twitter. Like if you come at me on Twitter, I'll go at you, and then if I deem you unintelligent though, then you just get muted, and I don't talk to you anymore.
That's the fun part, I think. And like, Rogan's always talking about why would you engage? And like some people are like, dude, I love to engage. I can't.
Yeah.
And Rogan's like, no, you can't, man. You go, I have to. You don't understand, man. I love it.
Yeah. Now, sometimes I like it. Sometimes I don't engage. I'll go in there. I'll say my piece. I'll read a couple of responses of it. Then I'll just leave it there. And then like it'll show up. And I just like it. I like everything. I'm like, yeah, I acknowledge you said something. And that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I'll mute you if you're annoying.
Yeah. Hey, man, how did you end up going from, because I think you went to private school in high school, right?
Right.
How did you go from junior high over to private school? Is that because I know sometimes when you're an athlete, they come seek you out, or did you,
Right.
or were your parents looking for a different type of an experience?
No, my mom really wanted me to go to private school. She didn't think public school would be good for me. I got into Strake. I was in the top 10% of test scores on the entrance exam.
Mm-hmm.
So sports or no sports, I would have gone to Strake anyway. I got a scholarship for my test scores there, and then I did football, wrestling, and track there. But when I was a lot smaller when I went to high school. I think I was 5'8", 5'6", 5'8", when I was in 8th grade. When I started my freshman year of high school, I was 5'9", 160. And by the end of that year, I was 6'3", 230. So
That's a whole different dude.
yeah, I grew a lot that year. And then that's also kind of when I started getting into fights, because I was like, I'm not going to take this from anyone. I don't need to listen to you right now.
I can tell you this, man. I'm 5'3". I'm still waiting for my growth spurt. First, I'm waiting for puberty. When that comes, I'm gonna feel my growth spurts right after that.
Then
So
you made it.
I'm ready.
You made it.
So, man. So here's the thing. Like when people hear about Strake, they don't think about fights. They don't think about problems.
The thing was, it's a very when I went there, it was very different than it is now. But I've always kind of been very off to myself, so I kind of got labeled as weird right when I got there. And you know how kids are, man. They like messing with other kids.
Yeah.
And some kids like understand that. I did not understand that. I was like, look, I am bigger than you. I am stronger than you. I do not have to take this from anyone. So
Yeah.
when kids would mess with me, I would just, if I didn't like, sometimes I would go along with it, but if I didn't feel like it, I would be like, you need to stop that or we're gonna fight. That was it. And they don't stop. So we fought, and that was it for me. I was like, that's how I saw it. That was my form of conflict resolution.
Man, who talks about that is ever seen you in a recent interview with Uriah Faber? He's going to come back and all that stuff. Which I don't know, man. Dude, he has so many businesses, dude. He owns a dental practice and real estate. Just go do that. What are you doing with gyms?
You're bored.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, misses the adrenaline. Like, where else are you going to get that adrenaline?
Right.
I guess.
But
he talks about he had a situation, and part's on video, and he finally asked the dude. He goes, "Hey, man, I need to know your rules of engagement." And the guys look at him like, what? He goes, because you've already crossed my rules of engagement. Like, and apparently our rules for engagement are very different. So I need to know where yours are because you've gone way past. And it's like, and I think that's the thing, like when you're in high school, like a kid like you that is just, like you said, nonchalant, maybe quiet, sits on the outside and watches, in the mind of some kid, like that is a victim.
Yeah.
and then apparently doesn't work out as a victim.
Yeah, no. I mean, I would fight. I mean, when I was at Strake, it got to a point where I was kind of like known. It's just like it went from like, oh, that kid's weird to, oh, that kid is crazy. Like
Right.
if you mess with him, you're gonna deal with it. Like
Yeah.
and I would just be walking and like it was so bad. Like if someone looked at me funny, I would be like, why are you looking at me? Why are you looking at me and laughing? Do we need to fight? And then they would be like, no, man, calm down. Like, I'm like, no, then stop looking at me. But I was that like amped up all the time. And,
What do you think that was about? Like, well, like, where does that come from?
a lot of it was like just hormones. Another part of it is like when people pick on you or mess with you so much, it got to a point where like every day I'll wake up and it's just like, what am I going to have to deal with today? So
Yeah.
I was already in. Like from the second I got to school, I was ready to go. Like,
Just on edge.
yeah, I was always on edge, and I was only really happy when I was working out or when I was wrestling or when I was competing.
Yeah.
So that's why I got so passionate about sports.
Right.
And I'm also not the type of person to have like a huge friend group. I had 4 or 5 friends that I hung out with from freshman year to this day. I'm still friends with, my best friend from kindergarten. It's like I'm always like polite or sociable to people and amicable, but I just to be called a friend to me, I'm just like, get away from me.
Yeah.
Type. So
Man, here's the thing in school, like at that age, this is the part I talk to kids and teachers about a lot is like, okay, so like that's such a different example because, you're the kid on the outside, you're quiet and, in their mind, they have created the perception that you're the weirdo and that whole thing. Well, man, just because of your size, your athleticism at the time, and you can defend yourself at the time, and you have that physical outlet of working out because it's all built up, and you can protect yourself, and you have an outlet. But here's the problem, man: there are kids that are 5'6" and 112 pounds that are being picked on, and they have no physical outlet, and they can't defend themselves, and so there's nothing they can do except it just builds up and builds up and it builds up, and eventually the kid breaks.
yeah,
Like that's the sad part.
yeah.
And man, I think the fact that that you're able to describe it, and you know who else describes it really well? Do you know that dude? He's heavyweight. I don't think he's in UFC anymore, but he's the one that goes down to the rainforest and works with. There's a tribe of people in the rainforest that are picked on constantly, and the rainforest is closing in on them, and he protects them and
The
builds.
pygmies.
Yeah, right.
Ben Rothwell. He's still
That
in the
dude.
UFC.
Have you ever talked about that? You listen to him talk about him getting picked on? Oh my dude, it's insane.
Yeah.
To the point where in high school he was finally invited to a party, and it was a costume party, and like the whole school lied to him, and he's the only one that showed up in a costume, so just so they could make fun of him. Like that sort of just horrific stuff.
Yeah.
And like, so man, I'm wondering like now, like those people that you graduated with, and they see you on TV, and now you're on ESPN, and they see you on Sherdog, and now you're in the news and all that stuff. Do you think they think, oh my God, well that makes sense, or do they think
A lot of them are just like, they're shocked that I made it that far, but when they find out like that's what I do for a living now, they're not surprised at all. Like,
Yeah.
And it got to a point where like I almost kind of flipped it on them, where it got to a point where I would like antagonize. If I would see that like someone picking on someone else, I would like pick on them, or I would like,
Yeah.
But it wasn't a bully thing. It was a like, I don't like you, and I don't like you, so don't cross me.
Was it because of him picking on other people and like?
It's like, yeah, it would be they would pick on other people, or they would pick on me at some point, and I just wouldn't let it go. So like, unless you like apologized or we made amends somehow, and that was it. But a lot of times they would never get the chance to make amends because you do that to me once, I'm like, I know you, I know what you're about. Leave me alone.
Man, let me ask you this, because I always wondered about this, whether like Episcopal or Strake or St. John's or any of those schools. Like, first of all, there's like a stereotypical type of family that people come from. Not everybody, but there's a stereotypical where people generally come from that go to that school, or they have the money to send in that school, or they perform at such a level they can get into that school. When you put all that together, it seems like that school is almost full of a bunch of people that think like they're the alpha.
Yeah.
And like you can't have a school full of alphas. It doesn't work that way. Where you know what I mean? And because
Right.
of that, there's picking on and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that term alpha is so problematic because everyone has a different, like, there's a generalized rule of what an alpha is, and then there's people that are like actually alphas that. And for me, I've never been the type of dude that needs to prove I'm the alpha male.
Yeah.
I don't need to. Like, I do things that I do out of enjoyment. I don't do them to prove my virility or masculinity to other people. I'm just gonna do what I want to do, and so I'm that type of person where it's like I'm gonna do whatever I want to do, and if I feel you've disrespected me in some way or crossed me or there's a need to put you in your place, I'm going to do it. But I don't need to like go around proving that to everyone.
Sure.
Right? So for me, like a lot of times I would flip out over something that seems small, and my thing was always like, yeah, things start small and then they get bigger. Even when I went to college, I was like that. If people would bother me, I would make a point of the second you cross me, I wouldn't necessarily fight them, but I would embarrass them to a point to where they knew that, okay, that guy is a force to be reckoned with. I'm not going to bother him anymore.
Yeah.
So my whole thing was just don't bother me. Like, leave me alone. I won't bother you. You don't bother me. We'll be good. And a lot of the dudes that, like, there were times in college where people would say I was picking on someone. I'm like, no, it's because he bothers me. Like, if you know that I don't want to hear your voice and you force me to hear your voice every time I come in the room, I'm going to make fun of you, like, until you stop talking.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I don't care what you do when I'm not here, but when I'm in here, I don't want to hear that.
Man, do you think it all goes back to being picked on? Because, like you said, man, it starts small and doesn't seem like anything, but then it just gets unbearable.
Yeah, because people always, like, want to see what they can get away with, right? And the way I've always done things is, I don't need to see what I can get away with. There's things that I want to do. If I can do those things, then we're great. If there's things that I can't do and I see a reason for me not doing them, that's fine too. I'm cool. I'm not there to buck the status quo. I'm not there to, overturn anything. I really just don't care about most stuff.
Yeah.
I've got what I like to do. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so even getting, picked on, or when I would go and the people that I picked on, it wasn't ever, that wasn't the point of it. It was more so to ensure like my lifestyle or what I wanted to do in that moment.
Yeah. And man, when you went to Strike at that, because that's like a high performing school, and their educational standards that you have to meet and to stay in are just way beyond what most schools are. Did you have any teachers over there that you felt like more connected to than others, teachers or coaches?
Oh, definitely. This teacher I still talk to this day from there. So my high school, my football coach and physics teacher, it was Coach Daly. Then, the Hammerlands, they were my biology teachers and chemistry teacher. Then my first wrestling coach, I still see him at tournaments that I go and coach at. Now, he's not at Strake anymore. He was only there 1 year, but Coach Lopez, and then one of my wrestling coaches, John Bates, and his wife, Linda Bates, they were both at Strake when I was there, and I was very connected to them. We're still friends to this day. Coach Lynn, I got along better with the staff than I did most of the students when I was at Strick. I liked most of the staff there. I still talk to most of them to this day, actually. We still hang out. They've come to some of my fights. It's
Really
pretty cool, yeah.
That's got to be such a trip to watch, to have one of your students in there. Like, oh my God. Yeah. And then, like, man, here's the other thing educationally is when you graduated from Strake, I'm sure you had like a lot of opportunities in terms of colleges to attend. How did you pick VMI?
When I broke my hand playing football my first game, that kind of took any scholarships out of the question. And there were a couple schools that still said I could walk on there, but I really wasn't that great. And so with wrestling, VMI is the only Division I school that wanted me, and they recruited me and they pursued me. So I'm going to go where I want to be wanted. And, I went there on my visit, and it was very different than when I first got there. They didn't tell me about the rat line or any of that stuff. So I get there thinking it's going to be one way, everyone's going to love me. And, I get there, I'm like, you start all the way over again, but it's like legal hazing what they do.
Yeah, man, straight up.
And so it was a culture shock for me, but my whole thing was I was there and I'm not gonna quit, so I stayed there and I stuck it out.
Man, was that hard for you to get, like, based on kind of your personality, as like, faced all kinds of stuff growing up, and then putting yourself in a zone that no one picks on you, but then you get to a school and that's part of the program is getting picked on.
Yeah, that was very hard for me. Luckily for me, like they understand lines better and lines not to cross. You run into more of it from your peers. So like once you're out of that phase and you're a fully integrated cadet, you run into more problems because that's where everyone's kind of trying to establish a pecking order or a hierarchy, and everybody wants to think that they're at the top up there when really you're all like,
yeah, we're going to school, man.
yeah. So
we're just students.
So yeah, that was weird. But even when I was a rat there, people kind of knew where not to go with me, because my whole thing was like, I will fight you. Like I don't care. Like I will fight you if you cross a line with me. So once people understood that, like we got along great, because like as long as you didn't cross that line, you could say whatever you wanted to me, and I'd be like, all right, cool, yes, yeah, this rat, whatever, fine. And because I didn't, it wasn't that serious to me.
You're just playing the game.
Yeah, but like if you step outside the locus of that game, like we were gonna have a problem, and luckily that never happened.
Yeah.
So
All right, I got a UFC story. You ready for this? All right, so back in the day, maybe I don't know, years ago, when I first started this gig, I was going around this country speaking, this whole teaching a rock star thing that I do. I had this long, crazy, curly hair, right? And the first time was in Minnesota. I'm in the airport in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and I'm walking through the airport, and there's a group of guys, and I hear, hey, and they're all in the bar, right? And like, there's like that little fence thing, and they're yelling across the bar. And I'm looking at them, and they go, hey, man. And they go, come over here. And I go over there, and they go, oh, my God, it's Clay Guida. And I take pictures with him.
That's awesome.
I sign this guy. He has like a little planner. I sign his planner, Clay Guida, whatever. And then, so, okay, that's cool. And then probably, I don't know, a few months later, I'm in an airplane flying somewhere, and a dude comes up, and like he leans, he's in the aisle, and he leans around the seat and looks at me and goes, oh, it's not him. And I go, what's that? He goes, I thought you were Clay Guida. And I said, no, dude. And so I had the Clay Guida hair the whole bit, right? And like, we were in the same kind of shape, I guess, and we looked the same. And then, and so the UFC Fan Fest comes to Houston. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I go to that. And I bought, my wife got me and my buddy the platinum tickets. We get the meet and greet. We go to Rogan's thing. We went to weigh-ins, went to the whole thing. And I go to the meet and greet, and there's I forget who it was. What was the name of that shirt company? Remember the guy passed away in the car accident, the Scarface guy, or that? They were like the, kind of bro shirts in UFC for a long time.
Tap out.
Yeah. So they had their shirt, and they were there, and like all the UFC fighters are giving out shirts and signing, and they're all standing out there, and they took one look at me, they all start cracking up. They go, look, it's Clay Guida, laughing, and they go, get him over here, and Guida finally comes out, and we're looking at each other like, oh my God, and we take pictures, and he's texting all of his friends, he texts his mom, look, I found my twin, and then the thing is, but then I'm looking at Guida, and I look at the card, and I look at him, and I'm looking at, I go, dude, 5'7" you have yourself listed? Come on. There's no way, man. He goes, I gotta put something, man. I want to put down 5'4", so I put 5'7". Yeah. But here's the thing, man, is what I love about some of those dudes is when I see those fighters, and I'm wondering what your path is. Some of them, like, this is all they got.
Yeah.
And some of them, like, this is the springboard. This is what I'm doing until the next thing.
Right.
I got a feeling like that.
Yeah, it's something until the next thing for me. I have a set number in my mind of how many fights I want to do. Obviously, if I get injured before that number changes. But it's not my end all be all.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of fans don't want to hear that, but it's the reality, man. I've done the math, all that in my head, and they'd have to pay me a lot more than what I'm getting paid now for me to make this my entire life.
Yeah.
So.
And plus, I think what adds up is just the impact on the noggin.
Yeah.
That adds up.
Right.
And and man, like the research isn't the big hit; it's all of the little ones that add up.
Exactly.
And so I think at some point, man, I think every fighter has to have a plan. And so like ultimately down the road, you've been crazy successful. You beat up Greg Hardy. You get the next one. He wants a rematch. You beat him up again. He retires. You go to the next one. And at some point that you're moving on, like what do you like down the road? Is it something in the entertainment industry?
Ultimately, I'd like to get into
Social media?
Yeah, announcing or being a color commentator, something like that. But I've got some business plans that I'm kind of keeping close to the chest right now.
Yep.
We're just that's what I want to use this money for. Get those businesses off board and get to a point where I'm making passive income and I can just do whatever I want.
For sure, yeah.
If someone wants me in a movie, I'll go do a movie. If get on a show, I can go do a talk show or whatever. But I just want freedom, financial freedom. Ultimately, that's the goal. So I don't care how I get it. It's gotta. That's the ultimate.
But
goal.
you care how you get because you have to be passionate. You got to love it.
Yeah.
Here's like I don't know what your plans are, and keep your stuff close to your chest. I don't want to know, but here's what I also want you to do. Like there's something for you on social media where like to get picked up by someone like Barstool, and like you are one of their. I don't know if it's a commentator or a reporter or something, but you do something through them because they have your audience.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And whether Portnoy, he does this pizza thing. Like I don't know. Like I think there's something for you. There's some angle there for you that you figure that out and bring to them, and they would do it in a heartbeat. All right, so there you go. It's free.
Awesome.
All right, brother. Hey, man, thanks so much for being here. And this is what I love. Like somebody who's passionate and they're smart and they're creative and resourceful. And they've and dude, there's like a comeback story to this where like this is the kid that no one expected. It was on the outside, and oh my god, now he's on the TV. And it's just, man, I appreciate all that you do, and thank you so much for hanging out, man.
Thank you.
All right, bring it up top, man. It's over.